You may have heard about the backlash and the outrage after a private school Birds and the Bees educator was exposing high schoolers to adult films under the pretext of critically analyzing the gender roles. Okay, it's kind of weird thing to show high schoolers, but sure. The argument was these kids are already watching this anyway, so how about we just show it to them and have them critically analyze what's happening in these adult films. Now, I personally think that's bad and disagree with this, but I understand, kids who have gone through puberty, they're going to start hooking up, they're going to start dating. And so there are certain things they need to be educated about. Perhaps showing them films and asking them to critically analyze it is not the appropriate way to do it. But okay, you want to have a conversation about to what extent teenagers, like 16-year-olds, are going to be learning about this stuff. Perhaps there's an argument there, but I still think this was wrong. I'll tell you where it gets even more egregious, where we can just outright say it's wrong, was in her curriculum for first graders, in which she plays a cartoon where they're teaching kids about, how to self-stimulate. Of course, now the mainstream media is defending her, saying nothing that she is doing is wrong. It was just teaching kids about these things, not how to. It's not a big difference, but I'll put it this way. The only reason anyone knows about this is because of Zoom classrooms. These people are grooming and indoctrinating children. They have no sense of sanctity, purity, no moral foundation in protecting young people and believing in some kind of loyalty. Because as we know from the moral foundations, the research done by Jonathan Haidt, the only foundations the left has is care and fairness. So they don't care if they could be damaging children. They don't care about this. They just think as long as we're being fair to everybody, which in the end doesn't necessarily mean you're actually caring about them or helping them. Because, communism was fair. Everyone got equal access to the gulag. Do you get it? But they're doing this to your kids. And you see, the thing is, were it not for these Zoom calls and screenshots, no one would have found out about this. You need to get your kids out of these schools. Otherwise, one day they're going to come home and you're going to be like, what'd you learn in school today, son? It's going to be like, screw you, you're evil, and I know. They told me the truth. We went over this book with Asra Nomani on the Timcast IRL podcast, where it was called Not My Idea, where a little girl starts screaming at her mother saying, I want to know the truth. Why are you lying to me? And the mom's like, what are you talking about? They taught me everything in school. What they're essentially doing is they're indoctrinating your kids. In some instances, they're grooming your kids, and it's rather disgusting. And they're preparing them, these children, to reject the authority of their own parents. This does not bode well for us as a nation, because it's going to cause serious psychological problems for a lot of these kids, at least in my opinion. Now, let me say something. This New York Times article is wonderfully framed in defense of the left, saying she didn't do anything wrong. But let me tell you about my experience in school and what I thought was appropriate. When I was in school, we did have education pertaining to the birds and the bees. I'm keeping things a little bit family friendly here. And it was very academic. It was very much like, here is, what do they call it when it's like an intersection? Like you can see half of the body is exposed. So you can see inside the intestines and the bladder and the prostate and all that stuff. And they were explaining these basic things to us. Now, perhaps what went, I don't know. I don't know how to say this went too far, but in my school, they had the girls leave and then they showed the boys basic scientific reproduction and stuff like that. They didn't talk about touching yourself and how to or why. They didn't get into any of that stuff. They just said, here's the body. Here's how it works. Here's what you need to understand about yourself. And then they brought the boys out and the girls came in and the girls went through the same thing. I don't know if that's the right thing. Maybe it makes sense to have boys and girls be in general biology class on this kind of topic together, but not to treat it like how to actually do it. And then even still having teenagers watch adult films to critically analyze. That's what they do. That's what they say. It's about critically analyzing. You might look at this and say, Tim, they're just doing a general birds and the bees stuff, right? Look, I think this is something dirtier, more devious. Take a look at this story from The Blaze. Many of you may have seen this. WAPO writer advocates for children to be exposed to kink at pride parades, igniting a tidal wave of resistance, sick, deviant, and evil. There is no limit for liberals, for the left. As I stated, in Jonathan Haidt's research, and you can take the Moral Foundations test, it's really fun. You take this test and it will show you where your moral foundations are. Conservatives have all 6 moral foundations. Liberals have 2, care and fairness. That means there's authority, purity, and loyalty and liberty that they do not have. Okay, those are the other 4. So purity, for instance, protecting children, protecting what is meant to be clean and not disgusting. They don't have that. They don't care. They think kids should be exposed to kink, which leads me to one of the criticisms I have of the left, one of the biggest, and particularly Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks recently, when we were talking about, Cenk Uygur said that, Ben Shapiro panicked because they are losing the culture war. I suppose that means it's not just the right, because right and left doesn't mean a whole lot, but the culture war anti-establishment, which includes mostly conservatives and the intellectual dark web types, they're losing. Well, Ben Shapiro is an intellectual dark web guy. The IDW mostly was like a liberal progressive thing, somewhat libertarian. So they're losing. Okay. Cenk Uygur on his show on the Young Turks defended child drag shows. Now, the left's immediate reaction is, so what? In this video, it's not the video they were watching, but in these drag shows, there is a child who was 11 years old taking off his clothes as men give him money. That's called stripping. Now, I did a segment about this, and the left said it's not stripping because he's wearing a t-shirt and shorts underneath. They don't understand what stripping is, maybe because they've never actually gone to strip clubs, or they're just lying. At many strip clubs, women don't get fully nude. They wear undergarments, but they take their clothes off and dance and are given money. These people have never been to these dance clubs, like where there are women on stripper poles dancing, and they're not fully exposed. Some states don't allow them to be, so that's the extent. These children are stripping for money, and it's being defended by the left. Now you see they're saying, Washington Post says the children should be exposed to kink. And they tell this really weird story. There's like a comic where a little boy, it's on, you see it on Instagram, it's on Reddit and stuff. A little boy sees, like 2 men engaging in a kink act, not like overtly intimate. And then the child says like, what is going on? And then the parent's like, let me explain to you what they're doing. And it's like, I understand you want to educate children, but they're really getting to the point with what they're teaching kids to be outright devious. Just it's like extreme to put it. There was one thing they're teaching kids about like blood play and like cutting and like, yo. If you've got these preferences, man, like you can do whatever you want in the privacy of your own home. But come on, kids, man. Yeah. Let me read you the story and show you how they break this down. The New York Times says a private school educator, birds and the bees, defends her methods. After 9 years at Dalton, why was Justine Engfont suddenly being pilloried by parents? Because they finally found out what she was telling their children. Because these Zoom meetings finally leaked their curriculum. You have no idea the horrifying things they're saying to your kids. We had the books in studio where it was asking people like, why do you think black people feel bad in their black skin? Like horrifyingly racist statements. They're making your kids go through this. Here's the New York Times. They say, birds and bees education is a sensitive subject. But during 9 years at the prestigious Dalton School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, 7 of which she spent as the director of health and wellness, Justine Engfont seemed to be handling it with success. She developed curriculums for students from kindergarten through 12th grade, hired 3 other health educators, and organized documentary viewings, discussions, and workshops for parents. She also was a regular speaker at educational forums, like the National Association of Independent Schools People of Color Conference. You see where this is going? These are the critical theorists. It is not just race. It is also gender theory. And for some reason, they want your children exposed to overtly adult content. And they say, but kids are already finding it on the internet. Hey, that's a great argument of taking away your kid's phone. The CEOs of these big tech companies don't let their kids have cell phones. What do you think that means? They know exactly what's going on and what their services and their systems are doing. Here we go. They do these viewings. One of these was Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School on the Upper West Side, which in May invited her to teach 2 Zoom sessions on adult film literacy and consent to its juniors and seniors. Bill Donahue, the head of the school there, said, there may have been confusion on our part about which course we would receive. We understood the course would be under the topic of healthy sexuality workshop. A couple of parents complained afterwards, Ms. Fonte was told. But there had been about 120 students, many of whom gave her great feedback, so she didn't dwell on it. Yeah, the parents didn't know. About a week later, she woke up to find herself featured in the New York Post. Students and parents reel after class on adult film literacy, said the headline. The story was followed by another soon after. Dalton parents enraged over self-pleasuring videos for first graders. The articles included screenshots from Miss Fonte's lesson, a possibility in the Zoom classroom world. Now, hold on a minute. Maybe you're sitting there saying that you are a good old liberal, that we are wrong, that we are exaggerating, that these children should be learning these things. Okay, if you believe that, sure. Why are the parents mad? Oh, because they're being lied to by Rupert Murdoch. No, hold on. Lied to by Rupert Murdoch. Why didn't Murdoch outlets or right-wing outlets talk about this before? Why didn't parents hear about any of this before? Could it be that they don't know what the schools are teaching their children? Could it be that even if you like what this lady is doing, the parents finding out and seeing the screenshots got angry about it? Could it be that although they have been applying critical race praxis in these schools for years, it is only because of Zoom classrooms parents actually found out and are standing up and saying, we do not like this. It doesn't matter what you think. You are not the dictator of everyone else's family. And if these people, upon seeing this, are outraged and it results in the resignation of this woman, perhaps that should say something to you. Perhaps when you see that story where a teacher was like, I'm terrified parents are going to find out what we're teaching their kids. That video leaked. Amazing. These teachers know that they're indoctrinating and in some instances grooming children. And they hope the parents don't find out. Now look at the New York Times, like, why is this happening? Everybody respected her. The parents don't like it. And they finally got a glimpse. Now, I'll say this, shame on the parents. You think you can send your kids off to a government institution without knowing what they're being told, and you don't take any responsibility for that? This is why I absolutely detest public schools and always have. I went to these schools. I saw how awful many of these teachers were. I had a couple good teachers that I can remember. Many of them, I can't remember a bunch of their names, a handful. Didn't like them. I can remember the ones I absolutely despised. And I can remember the two that I actually liked. Two. Because the system is broken. School sucks. That's what kids say. We all know it. And they're telling your kids insane things for insane reasons, and you don't pay attention. Get your kids out of these prisons. That's basically what they are. Kids are forced to go there. Actually, I think it was Michael Mouse. Man, this guy is he's no joke, genius guy. I'm shouting him out so often because of the brilliant points he has made in the time I have known him. I think it was Michael who said that one of the only places children will experience violence is going to be in school. And he's right. They're going to be locked up. They're going to be told to shut up. They can't go to the bathroom. You know what? This whole system is insane, in my opinion. It doesn't work. Homeschool your kids. Or get these pods going. Stop relying on the government to take care of your children. Check this out. In a statement, a representative for Dalton said that Miss Fonte helped to develop an exemplary K-12 health and wellness program, and that her work should not be overshadowed by unwarranted misinformation and hateful rhetoric. Is she out of touch? No, it's the parents who finally saw screenshots of her lessons who are wrong. We all watched the video. It is a video of two children talking about how they touch themselves at night, and the woman explaining to them that it's okay and here's why. Now, maybe you might be saying kids should know these things. If you think that's right for your children, that's fine, sure. I disagree. But they're your kids. How about this? If parents got mad after seeing that video, those kids don't belong to you. An exemplary K-12 health and wellness program? So strange. Why are the parents upset about it? It's misinformation? Yo, the video's publicly available. Multiple birds and the bees educators interviewed for this article said there was nothing inappropriate about her classes. The parents said otherwise. Who are these people to determine what is or isn't appropriate for someone's child? You see the problem here. The worldview of the left is, we know what's best for you. Shut your mouth. You're wrong. My worldview is more libertarian. My worldview is like, you're the parents. Far be it for me to tell your kid what to do. Now, if your kid is infringing on the rights of other kids, like, you better believe it, we're going to have some words. If your kid's going around setting fires or something, yeah, we're going to stop that kid. But if we're talking about whether you want your kid to play football or basketball, well, that's entirely on you. I'm not going to tell you. Football's bad because they'll get head injuries. Yeah, well, maybe, but, look, that's on the parent, to play sports. Now, if you come out and say, we want to teach them certain things, I'm actually going to lean a little bit more towards the purity side and say, I don't think this is appropriate for children, but I am still a bit more libertarian. And I think the parents are going to have to make some of these harder decisions on how to teach their kids these things. The point is, these educators have no right to claim they're doing the right thing when clearly parents are freaking out over this. The national standards are also used in public schools in New York City, where students in grades 6 through 12 take lessons on sexuality as part of their health education. Parents can opt out of certain aspects of the program. The material for her first grade class never used the term the literal term for self-pleasure. I'm not going to say on YouTube. Ms. Fonte said recently, the lesson was about private parts being private and included a cartoon in which two characters use anatomically correct names for their privates and say sometimes it feels good to touch them. I'm not even going to read this sentence, okay? They're trying to make it seem like teaching kids about self-gratification is more, they're trying to make it seem that they're stopping predators. This is the creepiest thing. Look at this quote. I equip them with a way they can exercise body agency and consent by knowing exactly what those parts are, what they are called, and how to take care of them. That was paired with lessons around what are the different ways to say no. And what's the difference between a secret and a surprise, and why you should never have a secret between a grown-up and you. Because it's never your responsibility as a child to hold a secret or information of a grown-up. Isn't there a really weird and interesting overlap between the creepy indoctrination and what they're saying? There should never be a secret between a child and a grown-up. Think about what that means. I think there absolutely should be. Now, I understand the manipulation they're doing. She's trying to say, like, if somebody was abusing a kid, don't keep it a secret. But what if your dad at home says, don't tell the neighbors that, we recently got a PS5. No one should know that I bought you this PS5 because we don't want people breaking in and we don't want people to think that we're well off or something like that. What if he said, I got $1 million because I had one of my, I got one of my feet crushed under a truck and I really wouldn't like anyone to know about this. There are tons of things that are supposed to be kept in the family. Who are they to say that a child should not have a secret between a grown-up and you? And what does that mean? Now, perhaps there is a positive element there. If there is a creepy non-family member doing something to these kids, they shouldn't keep that a secret. But there's a difference between saying, if somebody is inappropriately touching you or making you feel uncomfortable, you can tell anyone and not be scared. That's different from saying you should never have a secret with grown-ups, ever. It seems kind of creepy to me because it falls into this idea of snitching on your parents. Now this, not absolutely, but it overlaps. They like in the Soviet era, they tell the kids, or in Nazi Germany, snitch on your parents if they say anything in opposition to us. Jenny Knoll, professor of human development and family studies at Penn State, is the principal investigator of the Safe and Healthy Communities Initiative in Pennsylvania. As part of the initiative, more than 14,000 second graders have been taught the names of their body parts and about healthy boundaries. They learn what is safe, how to get help, and then it's not their fault. You see how they're doing this? You can touch yourself. I don't know that kids need to be told it's okay, but I don't think kids need to be told that it's not okay. Or maybe the parents should be allowed to know about this. That's what it ultimately comes down to. If you as a parent want your kids to learn this, sure, I guess, not my kids. But if parents didn't know this was happening, and then they found out through these videos and it got them really angry, and this woman was forced to resign, doesn't that say something about what's happening in our schools? They're going to get your kids. There's a creepy song that's going viral right now where it's a choir of gay men saying, we're going to convert your children. We're going to get your kids and things like that. At first I thought it was supposed to be sarcastic, like they were mocking the idea. And then I actually read the lyrics and no, it's serious. And they're like, we'll make an ally of you yet once we have your children. Yes. They understand this principle that many on the right and many individualists and libertarian types don't understand. They are going to brainwash your kids in a variety of ways. It will be done insidiously, not overtly. It will be a slow, creeping change where one day your kid will be playing t-ball with you, and the next day he'll come back and he will be a deviant. Let's talk about this drag kid. The Young Turks overtly defend child stripping. That's what it is. You can try and play semantics with me. I've been to strip clubs. I know strippers. I'm from the south side of Chicago, baby. I know all about this stuff. And I know that in many clubs in many states, they can't get fully nude. This child was stripping, and these people are defending it, and the Young Turks are defending it. When this kid was interviewed, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, an advocate. That ain't a job, dude. An advocate? I guess technically it could be a job, speaking on behalf of a community or whatever. But he's basically saying what the parents tell him to say. He doesn't know what the world is made of. And this is what you get when children are indoctrinated. What are you equipping your children for? This kid's going to grow up. Many people are speculating about as to like what he will do, how he will behave, and we'll see. Because maybe he will just grow out of it, maybe be embarrassed by it. Who knows? Maybe he'll embrace it, perhaps. These kids are being propped up and they're being lavished with money. Why would they change the world, the only world they know? So we don't know for sure. But there's a lot of kids. A lot of them don't understand what's going on. They'll grow up and they'll change and they will hate all of this. And I think the ultimate goal for many on the left is to maybe put them in a position where they can't do anything about it. You either agree, you're forced in, or else. That's the creepy thing about all of this. If you think sending your kids to a government institution where you can't monitor them, where you have no idea what they're being taught is a good idea, I think you're being a bad parent. I don't care. I've been through the school. I've been to schools. I mean, I'm sure many of you have, but I've been in these public schools. I have seen what these teachers do. I experienced this. I had bad teachers. And you know what? Most of the people I know have a similar experience. Teachers were awful. I have a couple I can name that I thought were really, really great, and I'm lucky to have had them. But these kids are going into places where they're being told insane things for insane reasons. They're being abused in a variety of ways. And you're not there. You're not there to raise your kids. And a lot of people are saying, my kids need to go to school because I have to go to work. It used to be that your kid would go to work with you. And I understand that's not possible these days. But now I just look at the decay of the system, and I don't think it's an excuse. Maybe it's too difficult. I don't know. I don't have kids. That's a fair point. But you think about the kid used to watch the dad work. The daughter used to watch the dad or the mom or whoever work, and they would learn from them directly. That's why I think pods are a really brilliant idea. You get one parent one day out of the week who teaches the kids for the day, and the kids get a different parent going over different books. And all the parents know exactly what the kids are being taught. The kids are socializing with each other. They're going to the park. One parent could be like, I'm dumb as a box of rocks. How about I bring them to the park and have them socially interact and learn better social skills? One parent might be like, I'm really good at math. How about I take math day? And then one day out of the week, there's one parent from this group of from this pod, which probably is going to include, you got one kid in the pod, maybe 2 parents. So you might have more parents than kids. In a lot of ways. You might have more kids than parents if the parents are having more than one kid, for sure. But then these kids can learn in the real world. They can learn from someone who actually knows and cares about them, who will be held accountable by the other parents. I think schools are trash. I think this stuff is dangerous. I think if parents are mad about this, then what I'm saying is true. And I think there's a lot of deviant and disgusting people who are trying to expose your children to inappropriate things. Take a look at this from ground.news at the top. We have this bar, and it shows us the bias of the outlet and the story. 100% of these stories were written by the right. Now, the story itself about kink at Pride was written by the Washington Post. But criticism of this only comes from the right. The left is okay with showing adult activities to children. I'm not. And I think that's where ultimately you start getting, whether or not someone is conservative, their moral foundations. You can be left on the economic scale to a certain degree. That's why left and right are ultimately meaningless. I'll add one last thing. Libertarians, they only have one moral foundation, and it's liberty. No joke. It's funny. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.